earlier, I spoke with Andrew Hall, the Chief Executive of the Insurance Council, about the dangers posed by flood and why he thinks the government needs to spend more to protect communities.
Well, the way we've got to think about this, Ross, is that every year governments are spending around $2.5 billion recovering from natural disasters in this country. And indeed, the 2022 floods, which were 3 years ago this week, they cost insurers about $6.4 billion in claims. There is a return on this investment that is real. When we've modelled it, we can see that communities, particularly larger communities, when they get the hard infrastructure built, homes are protected and we can normalise the insurance premiums for those people.
Okay, so this is $30 billion over 10 years, so $3 billion give or take per year. Where does the first $3 billion go to in the first year?
Well, there is a bunch of flood studies and levies that have been designed and proposed up and down the east coast of Australia that are sitting there gathering dust in regional cities. I could name 3 or 4 of them. Rockhampton,
yes.
Bundaberg, we could build a levy tomorrow and protect 700 homes and bring down the cost of insurance for those people.
Okay, so then if we go back 3 years and we think about the floods in and around Sydney, but in particular in the Northern Beaches, the southeast Queensland as well, but then I go to the town of Lismore that we covered a lot. You've been up there many, many times. Since that Lismore flood, has a levy been built? Has anything changed for that community?
Well, a lot of money has been spent in Lismore. I was there last week and I saw homes that have been bought back. I've seen homes that have been moved to higher ground and progress is being made, but it is very difficult for that community. But out of the $1 billion that's been spent so far, the next flood will not be 1 centimetre lower because we're still in the process of studying what to do. Now, our argument for this fund is that by the middle of this year, the CSIRO will have studied to death the Northern Rivers and we'll have a really good idea about what we've got to do to properly flood-proof Lismore. But we need a fund ready to go. We're going to need money to invest in this infrastructure. And the thing about flood is that it's predictable. We know it's going to happen. We know the likelihood, the frequency. So you and I are going to be sitting here talking about this in another 5-10 years' time, the same topic over and over again, unless we start thinking about infrastructure for flood defences differently.
Okay, so if I'm an insurer right now and I've got a business or a homeowner in Lismore who is in a vulnerable area, I'm not going to insure them. Or if I do insure them, I'm going to want such a big premium from them that they most likely can't afford it. That's a problem.
Yes, well, insurers have different risk appetites. Some insurers are working with businesses through brokers and the like to look at the uplift and the resilience. That's one of the things we're calling for in this package is grants that can go to individual homes and businesses and make them waterproof, recover faster from the flood. Flood levies are not going to fix everything. There are some communities that can't be protected by a flood, but we can raise houses, or we can do what was announced today by the Premier in Queensland, which is a grants program up in Ingham, and that will flood-proof homes there, make all the downstairs areas completely waterproof. Insurers are very attracted to that idea. If we know that a home can be recovered quickly, cleaned out and returned to the owner, they are a far more attractive proposition to insure.
Okay, so you and I are right here talking about flood. Why are we not talking about fire? Why are we not talking about other types of natural disasters that might hurt homeowners and business?
Flood is the biggest problem for insurance because, as I said, it's a predictable risk. When you insure your house, you're insuring against the unexpected fire or a hailstorm or even an earthquake in some parts of Australia that come along. With a flood, we've got all the data. We know where they're going to happen. We know the likelihood, the depth, the frequency, and we know very much the impact these days. So when you're pricing a home that you know has a 41% chance of being completely flooded sometime in the next 10 years, and that's currently 220,000 homes on the East Coast, that is a very expensive proposition. And I was speaking to an insurer just last week up in North Queensland in Cardwell. They are rebuilding the same home for the 3rd time in 5 years after 3 different flooding or storm events.
Andrew Hall, many thanks for your time.
Thank you, Ross.